I'm Alireza. I'm a German-based lawyer, now partner with Deloitte and active in the crypto industry for some years. So I've actually didn't miss any of the crypto asset conference. So happy to be here again, and thanks for having me. We have today a nice panel with esteemed speakers from the policymakers, but also from the industry, and we are going to look into some hot topics. And before we do that, I would like to have a moment for introduction, and let's start with you.
Is it working? Yes. So good afternoon, and thank you for having me today. So I'm Charlotte Marc, and I'm working in the European Banking Authority in the Digital Finance units. So in our unit, I may say there are three key working areas which are relating to DORA, MiCAR, and other innovation topic, and my focus is mostly on MiCAR. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, Charlotte. Let's go ahead with you, Michael.
Hi, my name is Michael Wild. I have been in the crypto industry since around 2017. To that time, I was a consultant with KPMG. Before I was TradFi, I had been also managing director of eToro, of the online broker over here in Germany, managing director for Binance and DACH region, and I joined the dEuro association in October last year.
Good afternoon, Stephan, Dreyer, Managing Director of the Association of National Numbering Agencies, also known as ANA. So we are a global member association responsible for the promotion and the adoption and implementation of standards within the capital markets. You may have heard of things like ISIN codes out of the traditional financial markets. So we work not only representing our members in terms of the local implementation of a global standard, but also working with regulatory bodies, other standards bodies, and market participants to really gain the maximum benefit of standards, also in a regulatory reporting framework.
Hello, I'm David Durouchoux. I'm a Deputy CEO of Societe Generale Forge, which is a regulated subsidiary of Societe Generale Group. We are working in tokenizing financial assets and issuing stablecoins. So we are meant to be a bridge between traditional TradFi and DeFi.
My name is Amadeus. I'm with WEPEX, senior manager with WEPEX. We are a Frankfurt-based consulting firm focusing on capital markets, and my personal field of interest and expertise lies in blockchain and digital asset use cases in cap markets.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to talk about MiCAR, but for those of you who do not really understand what kind of impact MiCAR has right now in the industry, just a little sum up. We have the MiCAR, which is applicable from the beginning of this year, or to be more precise, from the end of last year. And now we have the grandfathering period, which means that in some jurisdictions, like in Germany, we have 12 months where anyone who did the crypto business before the application date, before the 30th of December, can continue to do so until either the license to receive a MiCAR license is accepted or rejected. We see also in the market some other jurisdictions like Italy, where you have 18 months. We have some jurisdictions where you have 5 months or 6 months, like Lithuania and Latvia. And this already puts some, I would say, some non-harmonized market right now there, because as you can imagine, if you have 18 months time to get your MiCAR license, not just you as a CASP, but also as a regulator, you would probably take the whole 18 months to make sure that everything is in line, not to get in any jeopardy with the possibility, with the difficulty to have the application being rejected, because you have strict deadlines under MiCAR. So we don't have under MiCAR the possibility just to have the application running for 3 years, like we saw it in Germany with the crypto custodians. Now we have really strict deadlines. And if we talk about licensing, we must understand that we have the licenses for CASPs, but when it comes to stablecoin issuers like asset reference token issuers or e-money token issuers, for them we have next to the white paper requirements, we also have the requirements to receive a license as an issuer. So as an e-money token issuer, you must be an EMI, so e-money institution. As an asset reference token issuer, you must be either a credit institution or something similar to that. And what happens if it doesn't work out, you probably all realized last week, in the end of last week, the publication by BaFin about Ethina, the first application which may be rejected. It's not rejected now, it's just a warning, an announcement of BaFin. Pretty nice to see that BaFin is again the first mover in this field. And this brings us now back to our discussion. I would like to see what the different players in the market think, where we are right now with MiCAR, how the market looks from their perspective, maybe how the market looks from their perspective. You're not inside the European Economic Area, but you're outside and you want to do something which is related to crypto assets. And I would start with you, Charlotte. Maybe you can give us a little bit insight of what you're doing exactly at EBA and how you see the market right now. Would you say everything is fine? There are some things which are still open. We have MiCAR. Maybe there's MiCAR 2.0 coming. So give a little bit of insight what we, how we can better understand what EBA is doing in respect to MiCAR.
Thank you. So as you rightly noticed, so MiCAR started to apply for issue of asset reference token and e-money token already in June 2024, and it now fully applies since December last year. From the BA side, we had a number of mandates under MiCAR, and they are all completed and consultation paper were published. There are still few mandates that remain to be adopted by the Commission, and for them, these are on the Commission side then. And what we are doing now and what we started as already in the first step of application of MiCAR is to ensure there is a good cooperation, coordination with CSS and also among competent authority to promote a common supervisory culture with regard to some novel activities. What we see on the market, if you look at globally, we see that the crypto asset market and specifically for stablecoin, it's growing. But it's still driven, it seems so, in terms of when you look at market cap and trading volume by USD referenced stablecoin. And we still see the euro stablecoin market relatively smaller in size. ESMA is now publishing the issue of asset reference token and e-money token, which are compliant with MiCAR. So we are closely looking at that. And as of today, there are now 17 EMTs which are issued under MiCAR, and one of which is from SG4. And there is no art to date. And most of these EMTs are issued by e-money institution because credit institution could also issue EMTs. We are also looking out of MiCAR scope crypto assets. For instance, the EBA recently published a report on tokenized deposits, so it's also some aspects that we are looking at. And there are also other out-of-scope activities, and for instance, the EBA also recently published a report on DeFi. It's a bit early to already speak about MiCAR, second version of MiCAR, if I may say, because it just started to apply a few months ago. So our priority now is to ensure compliance, full compliance with MiCAR. So that's our priority. And also ESMA published a statement recently to urge crypto asset service provider to delist a non-MiCAR compliant token. So that's what we are looking at now. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you for the summary. It's very interesting to see that we have 17 regulated EMTs, non-ART. I mean, for all of you who are familiar with the history of MiCAR, it was originally also set up to stop Facebook and Libra for entering the European Economic Area with their product, which they somehow succeeded. So happy to see if there's anyone going to succeed in being an asset reference token issuer. It definitely didn't work out with Ethina. Coming to you, Michael, I mean, you have a nice history. being active also with some of the bigger players like eToro and Binance, and now with a Swiss player. You are outside of the European Economic Area. So for those of you who don't know it, Switzerland is really outside. And you can have a white paper on a voluntary basis. So if you do a white paper for utility token and cryptocurrencies, so anything which is not a stable coin, you can do it on a voluntary basis. You don't need to be located inside the European Economic Area. So you can be located in Switzerland and do it. For stable coins, we don't have it, but we can still have stable coins in Switzerland, and you can distribute the stable coins from Switzerland. So I think no one is stopping a third country for distributing stable coins, even though something that Tether and USDT is illegal, which is not true. You can still do that from a third country. But what is nice about your product, and maybe you can a little bit give us an insight on that, because I also understood that your token is launched today. Why you think that your product is MiCAR compliant on a voluntary basis? So you're not, as I said, you're not obliged, because you're not targeting the European market. You're in Switzerland, and you have also a DAO or DeFi background. But maybe you elaborate a little bit on that.
Alireza, thank you very much. First of all, it's not our token. So I'm representing the Euro Association. It's quite similar to the Bitcoin Association. Bitcoin is an independent protocol, and it's represented by some people who are promoting Bitcoin. Exactly the same on the Euro. The Euro is the first fully decentralized Euro stablecoin available to the economy. It's a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain. And the special thing here, and this is also where we had some challenges when defining the mission for the association and separating from the protocol, is MiCAR is not really covering fully decentralized stablecoins. The point over here is the regulator did not take into consideration that also the end user, so for example, you can directly interact with the protocol and issue yourself a new stablecoin. And this is at the moment not covered by the MiCAR, but nevertheless, we as the association, we are promoting the protocol. We agreed that we will voluntarily adhere to MiCAR principles, that we also will set up the whole protocol in regard to the task we received from the governance token holders. So the protocol is being managed and governed by the governance token holders, that we will set everything up according to MiCAR principles. From a legal perspective, yes, or the protocol is by the definition electronic, also NEMT, electronic money token. But as said, due to the fact that the end user is interacting directly with the smart contract, there is no third-party issuer like AB, Tether, or whatever you said. The challenge what we're having, but we are spearheading here, is we would like to define a framework we're operating in also in Europe. And this is the reason why we set up, or did set up an advisory board also with Dr. Jonas Groß from Digital Euro Association, to have contact to the regulators, but I think that's done. So to the regulators and to the governmental departments, to really sit on the table and to define a proper and stable framework for DeFi products in the stablecoin area.
Thank you, Michael. I mean, maybe going to have later a little bit more time to also discuss the different kind of yield products you have, because it's also something special. But before going to that, I think something which is very important, which many people don't really understand, is that when it comes to crypto, I mean, when I say crypto, it's not just crypto assets under MiCAR, it's also security token and what you have in Germany, like security token, which are under the German law for electronic securities. Many people know from the traditional securities ISIN, and which brings us to standardization. And this is something I think, Stephan, you can elaborate a little bit on what Anna is doing, because I think most of the people don't really know it. But I think it is very important. You know, maybe you can also do a tweak and describe it from a use case perspective, what you're doing.
Absolutely, with pleasure. So as you said, Alireza, it's, you know, coming out of the traditional finance world, we learned a lot about what needs to be done with securities management in a regulatory context, and ISIN has been around for 40 years. One of the things that I was tasked to look at in coming into ANA is really the implications of blockchain and DLT in a tokenized digital world, but obviously we had other things being issued natively on chain. And so what we have been working on is really looking at expanding the coverage and the scope of the ISIN. And I should point out the standards that we focus on. ISIN is an ISO standard, so really for the unique identification. And obviously within a regulatory reporting context, that's very important. Regulators like to have things that they can latch onto to be able to uniquely identify things. When we look at other use cases outside of the regulatory reporting benefits, we're talking about things like data management. You've got an asset, you need to have some type of machine readable way to transmit data. And I think also important to highlight here, ISIN is not just an identifier, there's a whole set of data that goes with that, the economic attributes of the asset that you're talking about. So you've got the data management aspect. If you have all the market participants in this ecosystem speaking the same language, transmitting information around the same identifier, you know that what you're talking about, you have less risk of all the work that you have to do to reconcile trades. You've got transparency in terms of trade and transaction reporting. Risk management, being able to identify where you have exposure and aggregate that up, both at the asset level and the underlying level. And so we've been working on that in terms of expanding that over into the crypto space. And over the last year and a half, we have been successful in doing that. So things like your stablecoins, your EMTs, your ARTs, they have an ISIN. But we also recognize that that wasn't sufficient. And within the ISO world, because you've got DLT now, meaning any asset can be represented multiple times over on different chains, that we needed something more specific there. So where the ISIN is kind of at the asset level, you have then also the digital token identifier, which is also another ISO standard that was developed for the unique identification of that token representation on a specific DLT. As I mentioned in the beginning, we also work with other standards bodies. If you worked, or if you look at MiFID, for example, you may be familiar with the No LEI, No Trade. So we work very closely with the Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation, with LEI, bring this hierarchy where we've got the asset represented by the ISIN, we have the legal entity which is behind that asset, uniquely identified with the LEI, and then the DLT implementation token represented by the DTI. And really giving that as a way for the market to develop properly develop an ecosystem, having it be the thread through there, that language that everybody can speak against.
Thank you, Stephan. So when you talk to Michael, we're talking about stable coins outside of the European Economic Area, stable coins which are somehow related to DeFi and DAO. So when I was talking to you, David, about stable coins, about SocGen, I heard a little bit the pity out about yield generation and how nice DeFi actually is. But before going into that topic, I'm going to do that in an open discussion route. Maybe you elaborate a little bit on what SocGen is doing. What is special about your stablecoin? Maybe a little bit also maybe what's different from Circle and others. And then afterwards we're gonna elaborate a little bit on yields and on KYC topics and stuff like that, which is maybe difficult when it comes to stablecoins.
Maybe we are a bank as a start. We are a regulated subsidiary of a bank. So we are sharing the complex regulation of a bank, very heavy, but which is meant to protect investors. So there is a balance here that has been reached with MiCAR regulation. Let's say to protect a part of the investors, and as well to provide to financial institutions a clear and comprehensive regulatory ecosystem, so that we can work on distributing stablecoin, engaging cost as well, because it's a lot of cost to develop such products. And we have been doing so since maybe 2 or 3 years. It's a very long shot for us, a lot of investments. And I really welcome MiCAR because it provides us with the necessary, let's say, assurance that the regulator will not turn back and say, okay, guys, I will fine you, etc. So that's very important. Second aspect with MiCAR, it's a global and true European-wide regulation, meaning that we are supposed to be passporting this around the European Union. So it's really interesting to us as global firms because precisely the problem for us is the segmentation of the market. And even if we have some, let's say, sometimes long discussion, especially with the BaFin, it's interesting to have their views. And in the end, we always manage to achieve and to distribute products in Germany or other countries. So that's very important that the MiCAR comes here and say, okay, we have a framework and it serves us into the discussion with the local regulators. Problem with such regulation is that it's evolving very slowly. And it has to face with market conditions. And you mentioned Circle. I will not say that Circle for us, it's really not a partner, it's really a competitor, but they did a lot for the stablecoin market. So we have to recognize that. They educated a lot, and that is a sunk cost. So when you spend hours and hours speaking with the regulator, it's a part of the marketing cost that you are doing and education. It's not business. Meaning that here Circle did a lot for us and we have to do our part as well. And so we are going to Brussels and let's say advocating with our public affairs team to move MiCAR in a certain direction. And the two aspects that we have been identifying let's say as improvement to MiCAR is first the yield generation aspect, because as an EMT, you cannot distribute yield. So clearly it's not playing at par with traditional stablecoin, and we see that USDT was not applying for MiCAR. They say, no way, we go elsewhere. Voilà. So we have to question that, and we have to question MiCAR in the light of the biggest stablecoin not wishing to be part and playing the game with us under MiCAR. So that's the yield. And the second aspect is not directly linked to MiCAR, is linked to the Basel Committee. The Basel Committee is it's not a regulator for bank, but pushes a lot of regulation to our own regulation. And then it is translated to us. And the Basel Committee has been issuing a lot of, let's say, punitive capital treatment for banks. But the banks is clearly their best friend if you want to make stablecoin at scale. And we see with the Trump era that USD stablecoin will be clearly a leverage for the USD zone to develop. So we have to get euro-based USD, euro-based stablecoin, and then to move into that direction. It's probably the next agenda for our travel to Brussels. And in terms of business development, and I finish on that, stablecoin for us is an answer for the drain out of our balance sheet of the deposits. Because if the deposits flow out of our balance sheet and goes to the crypto platforms, clearly it will impede our liquidity ratios, and it will be very negative in terms of balance sheet management, etc. Donc it's a defensive, of course, move as well.
Thank you, David. So we talked now a lot about stablecoins and also a little bit about standardization. MiCAR is more than just about issuing of stablecoins and token, and standardization is also about the CASPs. So talking about the crypto asset service providers. I think now is a good timing to reflect a little bit what we can see in the market, and maybe Amadeus, you can share some insights from your perspective. So when I look at crypto asset service providers, I would say at some point the crypto custodians were very relevant, maybe because the AMLD5 and the regulation in Germany said these custodians must be regulated, so everyone was like looking at the regulation, just following the regulation. But now you have a list of 10 different CASPs, yeah, basically all of them which you know from MiFID, plus the crypto transfer service, which is something which comes from the payment world. But there are 10 services which you can do. however, what I see, and this is why I want to see if you can challenge it or if you agree, is that still the cryptocurrency market, I think it's the biggest market, and you see big players like FlatEx, dEuro right now, which is rolling out the crypto business. You saw Bitpanda, Coinbase, and all the others who do cryptocurrency. So with that, you have the classical prop traders / brokers, market makers, and custodians being active. But do you also see crypto advice, crypto portfolio management, crypto transfer, basically? Or is that something which is just written inside the MiCAR, but no one is really touching it?
I wouldn't say it's just written in the MiCAR and it's not really applicable. I think it's all about products, right? And I would stress what David said, that passporting is really a leverage. Like once a product is issued in the EU, it can be passported anywhere. Once you get the license to do custody in France, let's say, you can do custody business in Italy. So that's really a big leverage, and we don't have that for securities, right? We don't have a capital markets union for securities. We have 27 different jurisdictions how a security is issued, and I think for MiCAR now, for the tokens or for crypto assets, we have something that we really are looking for in the security space. So this is something I would stress the importance, which is really good. What you just said is sort of reflected in the market. We did a market survey last year jointly with Frankfurt School Blockchain Center, and we found out that for most of the participants, which are mostly banks, custody is the base case. You know, it's something banks are doing since ever for securities. They know how to safekeep things. What they now need under MiCAR is just additional technology, right? But it's the same business they've done since ever. So this is the base case. The second case, mostly for what most banks do, is put something like a trading layer on top of that in any form. I think there are 3 different forms. You have the exchanges, but you also have execution, and the third one connected to trading, I think admission or something. So this is the second case, and I agree with you what you just said, that cryptocurrencies are the biggest product we have. I think we had an all-time high for Bitcoin. This is like a huge driver. The same for ETH and everything, and everybody wanted to participate in this all-time market high. And so I think it's just about fancy and nice products, right? We have cryptocurrencies, we have stable coins. There's a demand definitely for stable coins, for payments, let's say, but also for security settlement, for specific use cases. And I think a third product, which is not really, doesn't have a lot of attention currently in the market, is tokenization of precious metals, let's say. For example, gold. We also have an all-time high for gold currently. And under MiCAR, you have a framework to issue or to tokenize gold, which does not qualify as a security. And you have this benefit I was just mentioning before. You can distribute it in the whole EU, right? You can list it in any trading or crypto exchange in the EU, and you can reach investors you could not reach today, let's say with physical gold or with Xetra Gold, for example, right? There are a lot of young investors, mostly under 30, that currently are not invested into gold, and they are all at these crypto exchanges. And once you issue a gold token, let's say, you can distribute it in the whole EU, and you will have lots of investors they would buy into. And I think if we get more fancy and interesting products, the other crypto asset services will follow soon, right? Because, for example, private banks, they deal with things like that. The asset managers are considering it, but they need the products, right? So I think nice products first, and then the other crypto asset services, besides custody and the trading things, will follow soon.
Thank you, Amadeus. So we have like 15 minutes left. So I added this 2 minutes, which we lost for the microphones. And now this question so far, we're all prepped. Now we're going to do some questions which are not prepped, because I want to do some open discussion. As we discussed it, Amadeus, we would like to have some open discussion. And I will bring up some thesis, something which I would say the market says, or which someone says, not necessarily my own opinion, but I want to see how you react to that, if you agree or disagree. I'm going to give a couple of examples. I mean, how you ended, very interesting one, gold token. I have a couple of products similar to that, and which we discussed it with the regulator, and very interesting. I was on a roundtable in Brussels. I was talking to lots of NCAs. There's no common understanding, no. no common understanding if a gold token is an asset reference token or if it's a utility token. If it's an asset reference token, I'm with you. Of course, you can issue a white paper, apply for the license, see how lucky you are being an asset reference token issuer for gold. I would guess you would never get a license. Some say it's a utility token in line with some authorities saying that gold is not really highly liquidity and it's also not really something which brings stability to the stable coin itself. Yeah, but the wording of MiCAR says it could be one asset, one direct asset which you can put in a basket. It doesn't have to be more. So I'm not finished. I'm not finished. So I'm not finished. So so if I would discuss it with anyone who wants to issue a gold token, they would ask me, why should I do it with MiCAR? Why should I do it in Europe? What is my benefit? I mean, we are in a blockchain world. We're in a global crypto world. I can issue it in Dubai, or I can issue it in Abu Dhabi, which are very nice locations. I can get there my registration, and I can distribute it on my website. It's in English. I'm not doing it in any French, German, or Spanish language. It's in English. And whoever wants to buy it just comes on my page and does it. And they would say, yeah, look at Tether. I mean, Tether, they decided against entering the European Economic Area. And they basically didn't decide against it. They decided against having a white paper. What they basically did, what also many people don't know, they bought into NACA, which is one of the biggest crypto payment infrastructure provider, a Slovenian company which has a MiCAR license soon. One of the biggest players in the market, did Lugano, did now doing Germany. So they paid in their assets with Tether, and NACA is using this USDT to do the swap in the back if they do crypto payment. A very nice instrument. Many people don't even know if you do crypto payment, you never pay with crypto directly. You always do it through a market maker, and the merchant is receiving fiat, as you see with the project we did together with Ferrari, which is accepting crypto payment. So why would I do it, the burden coming to Europe and to do that? I mean, just to get the passporting, which is, in my opinion, not really a benefit. I'm not finished, and you all can say on this. Take notes. Yeah, you all can bring your own view on that. Yeah? You all can bring your own view on that, and I think regulation must be a balance between what the supervisor expects from the market player and also something which is the supervisor or the regulator giving to the market player to really foster innovation, to bring the market we should talk about, the European Economic Area, amongst the global industry as one of the leading players when it comes to digital assets. Yeah? Looking at the US, looking at Dubai, looking at some other jurisdictions where we see now some movement. I was talking to some people and saying, okay, why are you not getting your ISIN for crypto from VM? And I said, why? I have my own in a shelf. I just take one of the ISINs, I put my crypto asset there. For my own system is fine. Others that complain say, oh, I can't get an ISIN from VM because it's really difficult. The product which I have must be, I don't know, compliant with Euribor and some other stuff. So very difficult things. So they say in the end, I don't want to really want to do it with standardization. I'm going to do it in a freestyle way. And then we have players like in Switzerland, in the EA, which bring out really nice yield generation products where you can take the stable coin, stake it, get some reward, or give it in and as a crypto loan, and then get something out like a depository note and trade with that. So why not doing this? Why really bound to some EMT regulation where you're not allowed to do yield bearing instruments, where you're not allowed to do any products without KYC all the people? And yeah, and then in the end, MiCAR is still very complex. Many people don't understand it. Not just 300 pages of MiCAR, you have level 2, level 3 documents where no one really knows what is what. So in the end, is it really worth it? Is MiCAR really worth it in the market, or should we just all do our meme coins like Trump?
I think these were multiple questions, and I tried to answer all of them. So first of all, why Europe? I would answer to you, why not both? You know, if you use blockchain, you are not bound to some specific securities framework, how security is issued, for example. You can do it on blockchain and you can basically sell it in the whole world. That's what would be my answer. Yeah. Why start in Europe? It's a well-established framework. We're also talking here about trust. Investors need trust. I'm not an expert for Abu Dhabi or for other jurisdictions, but so I cannot answer if it has the same trust. Personally, if I'm looking at myself, I'm a retail investor, I would prefer a product that is being issued in the European Union. not elsewhere in the world, but I think once you do it in Europe, you can basically scale it, right? We are also always talking about scalability. You can scale it in the whole world, and yeah, gold was just an example. I think you mentioned it. They're super interesting use cases, super interesting products, and yeah, you need a base. Someone that is a German citizen, I would start doing business in Germany because I know the market. David is doing probably the same in France because he knows the French market. But now he only needs to do it once, and then he can sell it in the whole EU, and then maybe elsewhere in the world. That would be my answer.
My answer is more do what you want to do and issue any type of asset as long as we can settle in Euro CV. Because in the end, whatever is the asset, you need to be paid and your clients need to be paid. So they will, at any point in time, look at a bank and say, okay, how can I go fiat, or how can I pay my salaries, or can I buy a house? I know a number of Bitcoinists, early Bitcoinists, who were diversifying, buying a house. So in the end, you have to go to your notary and to have builders who will build a wall, buy anything. Bon. Bref, in the end, you need a bank. And if you live in the European Union, you need a bank located in the European Union. It's better for you. You don't have all the tax burdens, etc. So in the end, there is still a complex relationship. We are not fully digital. And the banks do the switch between what is digital and what is not. And the switch, and that's why we started with a stablecoin. The payment mechanism is the bridge to the reality. And that is the business of the bank. After that, voilà, you do what you want. We are not an asset manager. We are not a privately owned company. We are not at all a gold traders, etc. Bon. We are doing financial assets on our trading room, but the heart of the mechanism and let's say the real value that we are bringing is to do payments and to be a bank, basically.
Yeah, so I'll refrain on the first part, but I would agree, do what you want to do. You'll go where the opportunities are, where your investors are, where there is demand, but also I think where there's regulatory clarity. And when you have a framework, because that's going to get you trust with investors. On your question around the standards specifically, that was something that, when we set out to expand the scope of ISIN in particular for the kind of crypto world, we very specifically looked at it from a technology, jurisdiction, issuer agnostic approach, right? Saying, these are destined for a global future. So we set up a model that was not like the model that we have in place, which is very focused on local securities regulation and having experts that are designated, or organizations that are designated by their local supervisory authority to perform that function. We tried to centralize it, and we knew with the development of the DTI standard, bring those two things together in a complementary fashion. So there is one prefix, one designated numbering agency for ISIN, for crypto asset, and in that same process, we're building out the DTI assignment. And maybe, we talked about MiCAR, you mentioned there, there's a lot of pages and there's a lot of stuff to digest. There are also not just the regulation, but the regulatory technical standards, the RTS. And, for those that don't know, DTI is mandated by ESMA to be published by stablecoin issuers or token issuers in the EU in their white paper to have that DTI in there. And so I think that becomes, a tool, a mechanism for allowing that very specific thing that I talked about in the use case, not only the regulatory reporting, but all of those other benefits. And that's why we tout the benefits of this and are looking for early adoption of the standards.
To answer a question, what had been multiple questions, I would like to come to the point David raised. MiCAR is very granular, very detailed, very complex. On the other hand side, we have like BCBS, the Basel Committee, they often publish principles you need to adhere to. I had been on both sides. So when I was working for Credit Suisse as a deputy program director, we were implementing BCBS 239. You had this 11 principles, and it was very hard to implement because you need to self-define what you need to implement. Then KPMG is an auditor comes and audits you. In regard to MiCAR, we now have a framework, and the framework had been defined by experts coming from the TradFi space, but a few experts coming from the new blockchain crypto space. And I think, yes, it's a tight framework. But on the other hand side, you have also some possibility and room for movement, what we do. Traditional stablecoins like David will issue in the future. This is a very fast, secure, and compliant way to move large amounts of funds from one side to the other side. How much players do we need there? This is a question the market has to answer. But this game will be won by liquidity. So the biggest one from liquidity will win this game. We ourselves, the association and also the protocol we are promoting is completely different. What we do is we're offering an alternative for retail clients at the moment to really define their own stablecoin. So how does the protocol work? You can take any stablecoin, in the future also David's stablecoin, and change it against the euro. Then you can put it into savings, what is working a little bit like staking. You're providing liquidity to the market. On the other hand side, you also can, for example, take, like Amadeus said, you can tokenize assets like gold and put them also in the collateral of the protocol and mint yourself by the protocol alone, for example, for short-term liquidity. So this is a new product. This is a very innovative product. And this is, by MiCAR, not defined or regulated at the moment. So we are spearheading here. And I say, yes, MiCAR is giving complex rules, but the other hand side, giving you also room to move. But the important thing is that MiCAR in the next level needs to be open also for innovations, that we keep innovations running and that we will not lose traction towards the US market or the APEC market. And this is the reason why we need to also work together with the regulators.
Thank you. So we'd like to answer your question on why would you choose to comply with MiCAR and why would you choose to develop your product in the EU? We have now a framework in place for crypto assets that were not so far covered by existing financial regulation. So basically, if you want to offer your product, which qualify either as a stablecoin under MiCAR or services related to crypto assets, if you want to reach the EU customer, then you have to comply with MiCAR. So that's as simple. There are like few exceptions when there is a own client initiative to reach out to a CAS, but there are only exceptions. And secondly, I think that MiCAR actually lays the ground also for innovation by providing this legal certainty and the possibility for the players to scale up their activity across all Europe. And that's what we hear, and also what I heard in this panel and previous panel, that overall this legal certainty is rather welcome. And of course, the regulation is not perfect. There is also kind of a difficult balance to reach for the regulator, I think, whether it's too regulated or it's completely unregulated sector. So with MiCAR, it's a kind of pioneer in the world in terms of regulating this sector. It's not perfect, but leave us some time, I think, to see and see what MiCAR compliance bring. Overall, there is quite an openness, I think, from both the regulator, the supervisor, and the regulated entity to discuss. And my last point is MiCAR covers crypto asset activity, which could be both undertaken by traditional financial player, but also new player. And I think that's something also that will be aligned with the time, but to promote this common supervisory culture and compliance. And we see this openness from the supervisor and this new player to discuss and try to reach common understanding. So that's my point. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you all for being with us today. We are ending this panel now, and a big applause for the panel. And if you have any questions, reach them directly, and we're giving room to the next ones.